And all right, we've got one last thing to adjust. Let's get this in present mode. And good evening, everybody. Hi there. I'm Andrea Miller, and I am the founding board member and the executive director of Center for Common Ground. And we are here tonight to give you an update on the Virginia 4th Congressional District special general election, and also on the Wisconsin Supreme Court primary. For those of you who maybe knew a tiny bit about some of the campaigns and projects that we run here at Center for Common Ground, many people first met us through our Reclaim Our Vote campaign, which is still running. Many people have sent out more Vote Your Power postcards than they care to count. A number of people know about our partnership with Vote Equality. As a matter of fact, tomorrow night, I will be going to a VIP gala at the Virginia Fine Arts Museum for artists for the Equal Rights Amendment. In the upper right corner, we see Reverend Woodbury and his team from the Florence Democracy Center with their solar hydro panels that they use to create water from the sun. And then we also, our intern program that's been running since 2020, Students for Justice. So as a civil rights and voting rights organization, we work to empower people to be able to have their say in the government that they want. So we were founded to educate and empower underrepresented voters. Those are what some people refer to as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color in voter suppression states. We used to think of voter suppression states as primarily being in the South. Well, wait till you hear about what they're doing in Wisconsin. Wisconsin would make Texas proud. So our whole goal is we want to empower voters so that they can engage and participate in elections, advocate for their right to vote, and we can create a democracy that prioritizes the voices of all people, not just some. So the old all means all, y'all. Um, we have a lot of faith partners, and we are in the process of convening our faith table. So if there are any folks that are on this call where you believe your organization would be interested in participating in the faith table, write to Reverend Rodney Sadler at Rodney, RODNEY, at centerforcommonground.org. And as soon as we get these elections behind us, at least the February ones, we will go back to our work on convening the faith table. Now, we're going to be talking about two states tonight. One is in the South, Virginia, and another one is in the Midwest, and that is Wisconsin. So in Virginia, in odd numbered years, Virginia has state legislature elections, and our election will be on November 7th. Our state house has 100 seats, and the current breakdown is 47 Dems, 51 Republicans. Our state Senate has 40 seats. And after the special election on January 10th, that body is 22 Democrats and 18 Republicans. Our upcoming race is a special congressional race where we are looking to replace Congressman Don McEachin, who died in office. So we've got one Democrat and one Republican that are running. Senator Jennifer McClellan, if elected, would become the first African American to serve in federal office in the history of Virginia. So this race holds a lot of personal significance for me because in 2008, I was the Democratic nominee for Congress from that same district number, although today it looks very, very different than it did in 2008. Now, I always love telling people about someone who really has the chance to make history, especially someone who has a very, very, very exciting legislative background. And Congress is all about passing legislation, writing legislation. So, and this is just what she's done since 2020. So she was our lead patron for the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. In 2021, she was the lead patron on the Virginia Voters Bill of Rights, which is our version of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. In 2023, her big bill is the constitutional amendment, the fundamental right for reproductive freedom. So we always let people know if you're going to make phone calls either through us for the 4th Congressional District race, or you're going to go call through a more partisan organization, we are thrilled and delighted to let you know this is a phenomenal legislator. Now, the gentleman she is running against, this is his third run for this particular seat. Unfortunately, he is an election denier. He really wants to remove the separation from church and state. He kind of wants to sort of mush them into the same thing. And he supports public money for religious schools. Right now, public money fund public schools in Virginia, and private charter schools basically are on their own. He wants public school money to be able to fund religious schools. Now, on this particular slide in the Virginia 4th District race, these are all the localities that are in the 4th District. And we are phone banking Richmond, Chesterfield, we've completed that phone bank, Henrico, Petersburg, and Brunswick County. And Brunswick County is complete. And that is primarily thanks to our marvelous phone banking team. We have also completed texting those localities as well. Now, if you are phone banking for us, when you go to centerforcommonground.org/phone banks, and we will be running a national guided phone bank this Saturday at 1 p.m. This is what it's going to look like under Virginia. These big brown bars are actually phone banks. And actually, Chesterfield is no longer there because Chesterfield is done. You'll see a great big button for Henrico, Richmond, and Petersburg. And I also tonight, I saw a couple of them come in the room. I'm going to do a big shout out to our phone bank team lead, that is Miss Janice Gay, and her incredibly talented and intrepid phone bankers, Artavia Whitney and Willie Cheatham. Yes, they're all related. Pamela Barnes and Quentin Barnes, Roshan Logan, Evan Morton, Tanisha Sutton, Maya Fulford, and Nicole Horton. And another shout out to Wendy Buckley, who just came in the room. Wendy is one of our phone bank trainers, and she has been working with me and Meg and others to get people trained on our phone banks. Now, what have we done? These are the calls that have been made. As I said, Chesterfield is done, Brunswick is done. And if you want to make phone calls, you can see there's less than 4,000 calls left in Petersburg. There's about 17,000 calls left in Henrico, more like 16,000. And we've only got about 6,000 phone calls left in Richmond. And the election is Tuesday. Now, last week, we put up the Milwaukee phone bank. We have got plenty of calls left in the Milwaukee phone bank. We loaded it with 55,000 calls, and right now, 5,300 calls have been made. And I'm going to give you some background on Milwaukee that you may not have had before. So in Milwaukee, there is a Supreme Court primary. So February 21st, Tuesday, the Virginia Congressional 4th District Special General Election. Also on Tuesday, February 21st, a primary election for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Now, why is that race important? Well, the court was divided 4-3. Now with an open seat, that one new seat could either bring the court progressive with a majority of one or push it back conservative with a majority of one. In the 2019 Supreme Court election, that election was decided by 5,000 votes. Right now, we are calling the city of Milwaukee with 55,000 phone numbers. Why is the city of Milwaukee important? Because a fellow by the name of Bob Spindell, an election official in Milwaukee, said that in 2022, he successfully disenfranchised 37,000 Black and brown voters in the city of Milwaukee. If you remember, Mandela Barnes lost the United States Senate race in Wisconsin by 27,000 votes. So this Supreme Court election will have the judges deciding the fate of abortion in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is an extremely gerrymandered state. Will those bad maps be allowed to stand? And also what we are seeing from the Wisconsin legislature in terms of voting rights. Wisconsin would make Governor Abbott in Texas proud. By one of the other things the court will be deciding in Wisconsin will be, there's a presidential election in 2024. Will the Wisconsin legislature be able to overturn the results of that election if they don't like the way the election worked out? Those are just 4 of the decisions the court will be making. So if you want to call for Wisconsin, you go to our website, centerforcommonground.org, and then scroll down past Virginia to the Milwaukee Supreme Court primary election, and that will put you in the phone bank. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to be doing a training, a national guided phone bank on this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then that will be for the primary election coming up on Tuesday, the 21st. On the 22nd, Wednesday, the Bay Area Coalition will be running a phone bank. And then we will be doing a little mini training on Wisconsin, and that will be at 6 p.m. Now, on the 22nd, that will be for the Supreme Court general election on April 4th, because by the evening of the 22nd, we should know who the 2 victors are. This is a jungle primary. It's also a nonpartisan election. So the candidates are running with no D's or R's on their back. So 2 candidates are progressive. They support voting rights. They will want to overturn gerrymandering. They support a woman's right to choose. So that's Judge Janet Protasiewicz and Judge Everett Mitchell. And then you have the other 2 candidates, Judge Jennifer Dorow and Judge Dan Kelly, who do not. So whichever 2 have the most votes, they will go on to the April 4th general. So again, it doesn't matter whether we have 2 progressives, 2 conservatives, or 1 of each. The 2 top vote getters advance to the general election. All right, now, postcards for the Virginia 4th special election. We wrote 67,109 postcards, and we concentrated on the rural counties, all those smaller counties on that list of counties where we don't have good phone numbers. So with bad phone numbers, we can't call the voters, we can't text the voters either. But what we can do is we can send postcards. So we postcarded the rural voters in this district. Now, for Wisconsin, and my computer is starting to act old and crazy. It was doing just fine a minute ago, and now it's like, nope, I'm getting stuck. And I hope it's not, oops, getting ready to crash, and it very well may be. Let me see if I can move my slides another way. Well, let me go this far. So that was good. All right, now, the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Again, we expect by the morning of April or February 22nd, we will know the names of the 2 candidates. We already have the addresses for Milwaukee ready to go. And I have ordered the addresses for Racine and Madison because we already have orders for 40,000 postcards. So we want to make sure that we have enough. Now, Wisconsin does not have 45 days of early voting. So they won't begin early voting until March 21st. So if you're going to postcard, you can write your postcards very, very soon, but we're asking you don't put them in the mail until March 14th. Now, a little bit about Wisconsin, because people are still asking me, well, why don't we work in Wisconsin? This is why we don't work in Wisconsin. The people in Wisconsin are absolutely lovely, I am sure. But when we look at the numbers, there's roughly 3 million registered white voters in Wisconsin. They are 92.32% of the registered voting population of Wisconsin. Normally, and we kind of did a whole, well, there's not a lot of other elections going on, and so we're going to go and do this. Normally, we would not work in Wisconsin because we generally work in states where the BIPOC registered voting population is at least 20%. We are nowhere near in Wisconsin, but it's that time of year. Now, a number I want to call your attention to. On Tuesday, this is a primary election. Out of 3 million registered voters, 1.1 million do not vote in primary elections, meaning they are 0 for 3. Primaries come, primaries go, and they do not show up and vote. Now, for, again, primaries, there are 113,000 registered African-American voters. That's 3.52% of the population. Roughly 60,000 of them, or about half, don't vote in primaries. Our outreach on the phones right now is all African-American voters, because what we learned in Georgia is sometimes African-American and Hispanic voters do not participate in elections because they can't keep up with where they're moving the voting places. They don't have a way to get to the polling places. So we do have free rides to the polls for our voters in Wisconsin. And that is a very important piece of information we are giving voters. For Asian American voters, we've got roughly 32,000. They are 1% of the population. And notice roughly 2/3 of them do not vote in primary elections. So turnout is key in a primary election. As my uncles used to tell me, he who gets their voters out wins. And then Hispanic voters, we've got 74,000 Hispanic voters. They're 2.3% of the population. And again, roughly 47,000 of them, more than 50%, do not vote. So this is what we are looking at in the state of Wisconsin. I always like to break it down for people so you understand who lives there, what are the voters like, what is the actual voting like. Now, the numbers do get a lot better when we get to the general election. That's not until April. Our election on Tuesday, we need to drastically move the numbers for the primary election. So that's it. As I said tonight, I was going to keep it short, sweet, and entertain questions if people have questions for me, or most of my team is here. So what you can do is just raise your hand or either stick your question in the chat, and I'm happy to answer it for you. Ruth, your hand is raised.
Great presentation, just super.
Thank you.
So please tell me, well, first of all, can we volunteer to do both elections, both the Virginia and the Wisconsin, or do you want us to just do one or the other?
Oh, you can do both. We are always delighted, whatever you want to do. Both sets of phone banks are on one page. So you might say one day, I've got 2 hours to make calls. I'm going to start in Virginia because that was the original race we were going to do. So that one's on top. After an hour, I'm going to get out of that phone bank. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to call Milwaukee. We would
Okay,
be
so
so
the train, okay, so the training session is gonna be on Saturday at 1 Eastern.
yes.
Okay, and so will you email us, or where do we go to find out how to get into that?
If you go to our phone bank page, Center for Common Ground.org/phone banks, you will
Okay,
see the sign up sheet for any of our trainings down
perfect.
at the bottom of the page. And everybody who signed up for this event tonight, you will get an email, and that email will have all those links in it for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was so illuminating.
Um, America is a very, very, very interesting country. We are so different from one state to another one. Thank
Well,
you for your question.
I'm going to tell you something that a wonderful African American lady who was a heart transplant patient of mine said one day, and it cracked me up. She said, "The devil, oh yeah, he stays busy." So anyway, there's a lot behind that comment. Thank you.
You are so welcome, Ruth. Nick. Yay.
Hey, what's up? First and foremost, I want to thank you for the presentation. I'm here in Milwaukee. I work at Vote Riders. I run
Yes.
the
Yes.
state operation here. For those who don't know, we help people get IDs and underlying documents so they can vote in the first place. Wisconsin's a strict photo ID law state, and so we've got our work cut out for us. And your presentation, it's almost as if you're here right now during the snowstorm that's taking place because you hit
Yes,
the nail on the
I
head.
know there's a snowstorm. Yes, our IT director isn't here. He had to go get his kids, and then he was just, we're just gonna be in for the night. Yes.
Yeah, no, they shut the city down. So right now we're just hanging out here. My question is, since Vote Riders, we handle like the first part of it, and we give rides to people to like government issuing facilities. You mentioned, the Center for Common Grounds offering rides to the polls. How does one, tap into that so that, like, let's say I have voters that I help get an ID and whatnot, they're ready to rock and roll, but they need, transportation. How would I be able to go about tapping into that resource?
All right. Well, this will also be in your notes. There's a group in Milwaukee called Souls to
Oh,
the Polls.
oh yeah,
So
I know
if you
souls.
know them, yeah, just
Yeah.
get on the phone, call Souls to the Polls. We are looking at if they're interested, getting them some additional technology, because right now it's one dedicated person hovering
That's right.
over the phone.
That's true. All right, no, that's good to know. Yeah, I'm homies with everybody at Souls, so I appreciate
Yes.
you so much, and let's keep working.
Yeah, and we're going to begin a very short texting campaign tomorrow. And we're going to be texting in their name. So people are going to be saying, I'm so and so Souls to the Polls. So yeah.
Andrea,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I was curious if you had more information about rideshare to vote in terms of the rest of the state. of Wisconsin,
We
or do you
do
know
not
anything?
have information from rideshare to vote about rides in the rest of the state. So rideshare to vote does have on their partisan side that they are providing rides for the Wisconsin election. We know they provide rides on election day. Souls to the Polls provides rides, early voting. They'll take people to drop off their ballot. Oh, you're going to love this one. In Wisconsin, they have removed all drop boxes. There are no drop boxes. In Wisconsin, not only do you need to get a witness signature on your vote by mail ballot, you also need the address of your witness who signed your ballot. There are no drop boxes. You can only turn in your personal ballot at an early voting location, because apparently the Wisconsin Postal Service is in cahoots with the election department, and they're telling people, you need a week to mail your ballot from one part of the city of Milwaukee to the other part. So they're telling people it's too late to mail your ballot, you've got to bring it in. So yeah, all those things hurt my heart. They're just painful. It doesn't need to be that way. And yes, we are encouraging people to vote early. Yes. All right, then there's a voter assistance hotline. Lovely. Arlene.
Yeah, I just wanted to say our group, the Upper West Side Action Group, has been working with the Wisconsin Dems. Every Tuesday we do phone banks. I put the link in there. And this Tuesday for the primary, we're doing it at 11 in the morning. So we'll be doing it on election day. So if you want to call, on primary election day.
Yes.
And the link is in there if anybody wants to, join in.
All right, and then I see a question in the chat. And we send our writers in Wisconsin an email alert with information on volunteering to drive. So Nick, do you need more drivers since you're here? Nick,
So,
Charlie.
yeah, man, I'm getting all the spotlight here tonight.
Yeah, getting all the love, getting all the love.
Billy. So I would say, like, we typically stay away from the rides to the polls part of it. However, the caveat to that is, if someone that we help get an ID or underlying documents use our services, then what we'll do is we use Lyft and Uber. We have codes, and also we just pay for the rides.
Yep.
So like if the individual has the contact information and we work with them to acquire, a document, and they want to go vote, then we will go ahead and offer them a lift. So we don't do the driving like Social Poll. They got real live people that are picking up individuals and going to, their polling spot. But yeah, I appreciate that plug. And yeah, if you see people out there that need help getting documents, you can always float them. I can put more Vote Riders information in there. We're trying to get everybody. I do so many runs on election day, helping people get ID so they can vote on election day. So we'll see what happens.
All right, great. And again, Wisconsin is a strict photo ID state. Nancy, I'm talking to Souls to the Polls tomorrow. I will ask that question. Yeah, and then interesting question from Susan. What will happen with the phone and postcard campaigns if both of the candidates in the general end up being conservative? Then we will not play in that race. Now, if they both end up being progressive, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll turn out the vote and let the people decide. I don't really believe we're going to end up with two conservatives. I would be very surprised just from the conversations that our phone banking teams are having with voters who don't know the election is there. And when they find out, they seem to be quite excited about going to vote. I'm loving all these questions. Dee.
Hi, yes, thank you. Somebody mentioned texting tomorrow, and I probably have a little bit of time. If you could let us know when that's happening and how to get in, that would be helpful.
We have a tiny number of verified cells right now for Milwaukee, only 13,000. Those will be gone in a day and a half, because our texters are just wild and insane people.
Okay,
Thank you so very much, though. Thank you. Yeah.
And just to follow up with what you said, from what I've heard from the officials in the Democratic Party in Wisconsin, that the registration in the Republicans and the Democrats, not that they're party affiliated, but who are about equal. And so their expectation is that it is extraordinarily unlikely that it's going to be two of either of the group. It's going to be one of each in their assessment.
Yeah, but again, this is an election at a weird time. It's going to come down to turnout. Letting those voters know there's an election in February. What? Letting those voters know. Yes, if it was a November election, I don't really think I'd be that worried, even in the Virginia race, but it's in February.
We've been phone calling, and lots of the people we've been in Wisconsin, lots of the people we've called did not know there was an election. So
Right.
that, yep.
Well, and again, everybody on this call, we need to remember, we are the 1% of voting. We follow the rules, the laws, what's happening in this state, what rule did they change? That is not most people's reality. That is totally off their radar. And I thank you all for being as determined as I am to make a dent and to kick down those barriers and let voters be able to get out there and vote. Ruth, again, you're my new bestest friend, Ruth.
Well, listen, so I know that the Center for Common Ground is non-sectarian or whatever.
We're nonpartisan. We're a C3.
Nonpartisan. Okay, nonpartisan. So when we make a call to these voters, are we allowed to capsulize what you said the differences were between Ms. McClellan and the other gentleman who was running without saying anything quote unquote prejudicial, but just say this is what he stands for, this is what she stands for? Or
Well,
are we just supposed to say get to the polls?
in the Virginia script, the thing that we emphasize, which is a historical fact, is that Jennifer McClellan would be the first Black woman elected to federal office in Virginia. That's a fact. That is not an opinion. That's a fact.
Right. Okay. But okay. So that's good to emphasize. But are we allowed to capsulize the positions of anybody? No, we're just supposed to stick to get to the
Well,
polls.
we shortened the script. So no, we don't sit. You know what? I will get back to you. It's been so long since I've looked at the script. I don't remember what we ended up finally saying. So that is a great
Okay.
question,
Maybe
Ruth.
it might be good to be able to give people a place where they could go to compare the two. Let's just put it that
We
way.
do that in Wisconsin. We did not have anyone give us a nonpartisan voter guide for Virginia, but we do have one in Wisconsin. And we knew that was very important because the candidates don't have these or are behind their name. So that makes it really rough. All right, yeah, I'm double checking our script now. No, we leave that alone. But because the Virginia race is partisan, we say the candidates are Senator Jennifer McClellan, Democrat, and Leon Benjamin, Senior, Republican. So as long as we mention both candidates, we're okay. Yes. Yes, yes. We're very, very careful of what we do. And in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, we mention all four candidates. B.
Yes, doesn't the League of Women Voters put out information about the Virginia election?
I don't have that, so I can look for it, but we did not have a good nonpartisan guide. Normally the league does one. I did not see one for this
Okay.
race, so I can go and look.
Okay.
But again, we've got D's and R's behind their name, and in Virginia, people are going to be either looking for the D or looking for the R. When there's no D and there's no R, then people are like, who's who? So we do have the voter guide in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then Wendy said in the Virginia script, we do mention there is an opportunity to send the first Black woman to Congress from Virginia, who is also a voting rights and women's rights champion. All righty. Yes, thank you, David. He's saying that Judge Janet Protasiewicz has raised over $2 million so far, which is really incredible for not only a primary candidate, but also a candidate for Supreme Court. Normally, that kind of money does not go into Supreme Court races. Thank you very much for that. Very, very interesting. All right. It looks like we're going to get out of here a little bit early. So again, thank you all so much for coming. I might see some of you on Saturday. If you have phone banked with us before and you are comfortable using our PDI phone bank system, you don't need to go to any kind of training. You can just start making phone calls. And I saw a very sweet note in the chat. Somebody's saying, I'm ready to donate. I love that. To donate to Center for Common Ground. And we do have enough money for texting. I just dropped that link in. You can click that link, and with our new donate system, there's a drop down on the page where you can tell us what project you want to support, whether you want to support the phone bank team, the Wisconsin Supreme Court project, which we'll be working on until April, or the general fund project, meaning whatever we end up needing money for. So, wow, I'm all excited. I'm doing phone bank training again, and I haven't really done that since 2017. And that is so cool because I get to meet more of our wonderful volunteers, and I just get so excited. So I want everybody to go a little early, take a little rest, smile, a little smile, have a good night's sleep, and then bright and early tomorrow, we will get back on those phones and let's have a fantastic Tuesday, shall we? Oh, Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to ask a question because I've been phone banking into Henrico County every day.
Bless you.
And what is going to happen with, in essence, the data we're collecting? I know we didn't start with very clean phone lists, and a lot of the numbers are, quote, out of service, but are we
Right.
going to bank the numbers where we were able to leave messages and
Yes.
contact?
Yes.
So we have a
What
core to start with in the
happens?
future?
What happens with our PDI system is
Mhm.
when we mark a number as this is the wrong number, that number is not going to get called for that voter ever again, as long as we're using the PDI system. If we say a number is a bad number, then we are not going to call that number either. But if we leave a message, if we say there's no answer, or even if they refuse, then that is a good number. And in a future phone bank, it could get called again. So when we text people and people say, you know, hey, I'm opting out, don't text me anymore, we pull all those numbers out, give them back to PDI. So the next time I download texting information, those numbers don't come down.
But I understood from the training that when we got a number that just said out of service, we were just
Oh,
supposed
right.
to check no answer. I felt like we needed an extra box to check to separate out the ones where there really was no answer and the out of service ones.
Let me tell you why we do that the way we do. We are calling mostly cell phones, and when a bill isn't paid, the message will say the number is out of service. When they pay the bill, it goes back in service.
So that those really may be good numbers.
Those really may be good numbers that
There's just
we
so many
put-
of them. There's so many of them in these lists.
These are hard times for a lot of
Yeah, I know.
people, and we are calling that population. So yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Thank you so much, Andrea.
You are so very welcome. All right. I think, oh, hey, Josh. Yeah, my buddy is here. And Gabriel, we cannot tell you how much we missed you. And Gabriel's going, Andrea's doing phone bank training. That must be frightening. So thanks for hopping on. Yes. So, hey, our former IT director, whom we will miss for all eternity. Our new one doesn't play violin.
It's good to see you, Andrea.
Hey, Gabe, can't wait to see you out here on a musical tour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right, everybody. Let's hang up. Let's go do something fun this night and get ready to hop back on that political hobby horse tomorrow morning. Love you all.